Hello, class and Professor Butler. Courtney and I did generalized anxiety disorder. This disorder is excessive ongoing worry and anxiety about many different events or activities. This is very hard to control, and worries are usually out of proportion to the likelihood of actually occurring. The class that it's in is anxiety disorders, and the prevalence is 0.9% in adolescents and 2.9% in adults. And looking at the DSM-5 criteria, for the first one, people must display extreme anxiety or worry persisting for at least 6 months about a number of events. And they also must be difficult to control. And the anxiety is associated with 3 or more of the following symptoms for the past 6 months. But it's important to note that only 1 symptom is needed for children. So the first one is restlessness or feeling on edge. 2, easily fatigued. 3, difficulty concentrating. 4, irritability. 5, muscle tension. And 6, sleep disturbance. And then the last 3, the anxiety and worry must cause clinically significant impairment in major areas of functioning. This could be social or occupational functioning. Interruptions are not related to the physiological effects of a substance or medical condition. And lastly, the disruptions are not better understood by a different mental disorder. So now we have etiology. So first we have genetics. 1/3 of those who have GAD is from their genetics. The heritability rate is 30 to 40%. People who have GAD are most likely to have first relatives who also have GAD too. Neuroscientists today are trying to figure out the gene location because it is unsure right now. 2, we have physiological. There's amygdala dysfunction, which leads to hyperactivation as an abnormality. Then for temperamental, there's behavioral inhibition, so that's the tendency to demonstrate fear withdrawal in novel situations. Then we have negative affectivity, which is when one is susceptible to feeling dangerous emotions and a lot of abnormal stress. And then lastly, we have environmental. So this is when anyone experiences a traumatizing life event. So that could be a parent's divorce, loss of a family member. It could be a foster child who's been taken from home to home. 52% of GAD people have had suffered an adverse life event, so that really speaks volumes that more than half of people diagnosed with GAD have experienced an adverse life event. And then it also depends on the parenting style. So if someone is over-controlling or overprotective, like this parent is here saying no to the child. So now we have presentation and symptoms. The worries are persistent. They occur on a day-to-day basis for at least 6 months. So here are some of the worries. We're going to be talking about them throughout the vodcast, but some could be health, money, perfectionism, grades, school performance, catastrophic events. Some symptoms that you could see is muscle tension, trembling, twitching, sweating, diarrhea, shortness of breath, fatigue, irritability, keyed up, sleep disturbance, some of the things we talked about in the DSM-5. And also, the number of symptoms increase as an individual grows. So as a child, you may have 2 symptoms, but when you grow up as an adult, you could have 6. It's important to note that females are 2 times as likely to be diagnosed than males, and European descent are more likely to get GAD than others.
All right, so next is developmental course. The onset for anxiety disorder is spread over a broad range. For the median onset is age 30, but for children, it usually becomes present in age 10 through 13. And although it is diagnosed in children younger, it's also, it's rarely diagnosed before adolescence. Every case is different, which is important to know. So if a child is diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, it's highly likely that it's going to continue until they're an adult, and they'll always have issues with anxiety. So some of the worries that children with anxiety have are due to school and performance. So for a child, this boy is saying, will I do well at my hockey game? this girl is asking if her homework is a good enough job. And then for adolescents, in addition to school and performance, they also worry about their family and their health. So this girl is asking if her family is okay while she's not there. A big issue with generalized anxiety disorder is that it can be overdiagnosed. So when they're diagnosing generalized anxiety disorder, they're very thorough and they make sure that it's not any other mental disorders or anxiety disorders. Some examples that are often misdiagnosed are separation anxiety disorder, social phobia, or obsessive compulsive disorder. Okay, so next is treatment. One way to treat generalized anxiety disorder is targeted behavioral therapy, which is designed to target symptoms of both anxiety and sleeping problems. So for targeted behavioral therapy, there's 14 sessions, and they're each 60 to 90 minutes. Session 1 is a psychoeducational and development of worry hierarchy, where the child writes down all their fears and worries and what makes them anxious so that they can look at it and understand what the causes are. Sessions 2 and 3 are a prescriptive sleep intervention, which each child is different. Some are affected by they aren't sleeping at all, some it doesn't even bother them. Both these are in blue because they take place with the parent and the child along with a professional. Sessions 4 through 13 are a systematic desensitization to uncertainty and anxiety exposure task. So that's where they work with their anxieties that they had up there and decide how to cope with them and move forward. In session 14, it's relapse prevention, so they're preparing for the future in hopes that the child will not have another similar reaction to their anxiety. The next treatment that they have is a Beck anxiety intervention. It's a list of 21 questions where the child says how they feel now, they rate it 1 to 3, and how they felt in the past week, rate it 1 to 3. So this, for the professional, assesses the severity of their anxiety, and it's easily comparable for the child, the parent, the professional to look at this week's, last week's, how they feel now, and compare either their progress or their regression. So based on the scores, there are 4 categories: minimal, mild, moderate, and severe. Minimal is 0 to 7 points, mild 8 to 15 points, moderate 16 to 25 points, and severe is 26 to 63 points. Some parents choose to put their children on medication as a treatment for anxiety as well. So we interviewed 2 people. First was a mental health counselor. Some similarities that we got from her from our research were that it's a biopsychosocial risk factor. She also talked about using the Beck anxiety intervention as a treatment, and she also said that females are more likely to be diagnosed. For differences from her, she talked about how symptoms can feed each other. That was something that we didn't find in our research, but it makes sense when you think about it. Also, she says that she sees it most in Caucasians, so she doesn't have the correct research on that, but it's something that personally she sees more in. So our second interview was with an occupational therapist. Some similarities that we saw with our research from her interview was the biopsychosocial model, and she said that she often sees anxiety in children in unstable homes. An example she gave is foster children, which agreed with our research. Some differences for her treatment approaches: she often uses breathing exercises, infant massages, and baby yoga. And also she found that it is comorbid with autism.